I gotta wait like 3 seconds. Tammy, I have 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Did everybody have a chance to review the previous minutes?
Yeah. I make a
I'm-
motion that we accept the minutes as written.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Finances were covered last meeting. There are no visitors on the docket. Both of you guys already have a spot, not in the visitors section, so Mr. Alex,
You're up. Look at that.
we're the word of the word of the day is quick.
But thorough.
There we go. Well, that's a better word. That is
Efficient, yeah.
much better.
I'm gonna put this on mute.
Okay. Hello again. Just to kind of go through my update for you guys about grant work that's been done to date. So on our contract, we have 100 service hours. 77.5 of those have been billed, but 17.75 have been split with the fire department, and now 3 split with the Conservation Commission. So putting the total that's billed to the town directly about 60 plus hours. So we're still good through June on the contract. At the end, I know that's approaching though, so I did want to kind of bring up, a possible renewal or put that bug in your ear just to think about, maybe to resolve next meeting. Since the last meeting, I did, per your request, meet with the library trustees about MERP and the grant agreement, answered the questions that I could. Of course, the Northwest Regional Planning Commission's more of the authority on technical assistance and things that are available through the grant. So I did connect them with Marlena Valenti at Northwest Regional Planning Commission so they could get a meeting if they wanted to help them kind of work through the same logistics that John's working through for this building. I also met with the Conservation Commission about a potential application for the Paul Brune Historic Revitalization Grant. That opportunity is down below. And attended the Preservation Trust had a webinar essentially that described the grant, kind of the requirements of that. And I'm supposed to meet with them tomorrow, although Pat Evans just called me right before the meeting saying we probably need to reschedule because they have a few committee members that aren't available tomorrow anymore. So we'll get that rescheduled and discuss whether or not we're going to go for it.
What's the time frame?
It's due on June 2nd. So the Conservation Commission, we can just jump down to that. They're still kind of deciding whether or not they want to do it because the applications changed a little bit. It was a lot more lax last time around that we applied. Now there is a pretty detailed budget that has to be submitted with the grant. And of course they want, something to back that up, contractor bids, things like that. And so it's still possible to do that. But they're wondering if their small but mighty committee could get that done. Yeah, and that's the other part of it that I wanted to bring up. There is now a requirement that if the Conservation Commission were to receive an award through this, that the town would need to agree to an easement on the property with Vermont Preservation Trust. And the length of that easement depends on how much money you would get. So if it's 50,000, it's 5 years. If it's 100,000, it's 10 years. So and it goes, incrementally from there. Essentially what that does, I tried reading through it. I'm not a lawyer, but essentially what it seems to be saying is they have a stake in what gets done to the building. And they want to be a partner in that. So any sort of damages that happen to it during that easement time, they need to be notified about it. They're also going to be trying to, kind of track whether or not, definitely track whether or not historical preservation standards are met. Because if they got the grant, this would have to go on the National Register of Historic Places. We have a letter saying it's eligible for that, but it's not been listed yet. So that's something to be aware of, especially the easement part of it, I think, for you all. I would, if you have reservations about that, you know, we can, you know, try to do some research or connect with the Preservation Trust to ask any questions.
Do you have any idea what the conditions of this easement are?
I have a copy of it if you guys, I think it was in my email too. Yeah, it's like a 14-page document, so it's a little light bed. I'm reading for you. I guess. If you would like.
No.
Oh, you got it?
I've been out of state for a couple days, so.
Yeah. And it sounded, I mean, the message I got from Pat was it sounds like there's some hesitance about whether or not they want to do it because of those two reasons. So
Hesitant to do
they're
it
hesitant to go forward with the application.
because of the easement.
The easement
And
and
the-
the more detailed budget,
much
like it's just
stuff
gonna be
you-
a more of a full court press to try to get the cost estimates and things done for it.
Do they have funding for any other building out there, for any other funding for the building out there? I mean, they want to save the building, right? That's what they keep saying, right?
Right, right. As far as I know, they were thinking about, you know, trying to pull some funds from their small budget for the committee to match. I know that they had approached you all for a potential match as
We had a
well.
conversation about that a couple of times, yeah.
But I think, you know, one of the things that I would say to the commission, that I will say when we meet, is that I think a tiered approach to, if they want to save the building, I think it's going to take a phased approach. And I think we talked about that last time. And possibly going for some smaller grant opportunities to, I don't know, Vermont Federal Credit Union, TD Bank, some of the maybe local financial institutions, and making a case there to get $5,000-$10,000 at a time.
Donations.
Right. And then, you know, if you're able to get two of those, then you've got, you know, potential match. It shows them there's local buy-in, that people are working towards saving the building, you know, all of that, all of those things that we got criticized on last time.
And with a plan for what that building is gonna be, because
Correct.
that's part of the issue. We have
That
to
was the
email-
biggest,
We
Right.
know what we're going for.
that was the
Yeah.
biggest concern
Yeah.
we had last meeting
Yeah.
was like, you
Yeah.
can save a building to save a building, but we need to know
What are we
what it's
gonna
gonna
do
be
with it?
used for.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Preservation Trust is really interested in projects that bring along economic development. And so, you know, in our previous applications, we said, well, it could be the town center for events. It could be, you know, the center for a farmer's market that could happen out on the green space. The previously funded projects, after looking into them more, you know, did things like childcare centers, a library, right? Like things that, or business storefronts, right? Yeah, like the general store, you know, John, this would have been great a couple of years ago. You know, if that would qualify for historic preservation, I don't know, but,
Very similar to
right?
the documents that they presented with Brigham.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's also possible too. We've been talking about the carriage barn, but there may be another historic structure that could be pursued, that we could pursue this for, but $100,000 is going to be not enough for Brigham. I know that.
No,
We're
It's
looking
perfect
more
for the
like
barn.
4.5 to 5 million.
Yeah. Any questions about that? I'm still planning to meet with the commission, see if they want to pursue this or not.
There is an interested party in the fact that he would be willing to provide a sawmill and time and labor into helping make sure that it's structurally sound.
Awesome.
We went over, he's a member of our church, Nick.
Oh, cool.
Yep. And he wanted my opinion on what needed to be done first. We went over and looked at it, and the sill is on the east side of the building, is pretty much gone on the north side for 20-25 feet. And it's if you gotta jack the building up and replace the sill for starters, level it out, stuff like that.
Yep.
But whether or not this could help with that, these smaller donations or grants could start this process.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
And if we've got community involvement as well, that really bolsters that
Yeah.
matching
Yeah.
in kind and financial.
Yeah. The Conservation Commission also got a report done on the building that detailed
Yes.
a lot of the issues that you're describing too. And yeah, a sawmill would be great because you know, if for part of this, you have to abide by the historical preservation standards of the Secretary of Interior, and those are very specific about what materials can and can't be used.
Mhm.
So like,
Looks like all the original materials for the cells were hemlock 8x8s,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
starting with that. Got a 40-foot log.
Mhm. I mean, 40-foot hemlock
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
down here. I was gonna say, those aren't hemlock, Brian. I mean, those aren't hemlock. Yeah, I know they're red pine. That's, you wanna be doing
I
this
think-
again in 5 years?
I think more of the issue, they're looking, the Historic Preservation Trust is looking at, it was built with native materials
Mhm.
and they'd like to see it
Yeah.
repaired with native
Restored.
materials.
Correct.
Yeah, doing the stuff for MERP, the library also has to deal with the Historic Society, and Preservation Trust. And I mean, they are particular. They are very particular
Oh,
about
yeah.
what you do and what you're replacing it with and keeping the aesthetic look and everything else the same and try to be historically sound. So it definitely, on any building that's over 50 years old,
Yeah.
doesn't even have to be on the registry. Any building over 50 years old that they're using any kind of state funds for, they want to be able to say something. Yeah, the library's one
Tell
of
me
them.
about it.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
Yep.
and the library building is frankly.
Yeah, well, you have to keep it
Get
that
the
way.
Backlash on that one, yeah.
It's not like it's.
Small too, it's teeny tiny.
It would be much better fitting
Bigger
in
than
a
you
wing
think.
of the
I've
brick,
been in there. What do you mean? I've been in there all over the place.
along with the town clerk's office.
First floor, basement.
Which building are you talking about?
Library?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking about the barn.
It would make a
Oh,
beautiful.
I haven't been in the barn.
We can
I'll
get
figure
there
it out
eventually.
for the floor.
So,
We've come
yeah, I was gonna say,
No, it's,
Bit of concrete floor.
that's okay. I think,
Somewhat.
the material, the rules that you're describing are definitely part of the easement. So if you would.
Yeah.
This, you'd have to check with that before doing basically anything to make it better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah,
Once it's on the list, any good intentioned volunteers
Mhm.
could run afoul of the Preservation Trust very easily.
Very.
Yeah, yeah. If they were to go without, communicating first, like,
Yeah.
it sounds like your guy, if he was using hemlock and doing things and volunteers could still do it.
He's very interested in doing it the correct way and very interested in seeing it used in the community. So, yeah,
be a hand hewed 8x8 then.
I don't think they're gonna hold.
Yeah.
the hand viewed, but
No. Probably not.
Out there with the axes.
Yep.
Find some Amish.
that would be an ad.
So, yeah. So how long is this potential funding source available?
Applicants are due on June 2nd. We, there was already a deadline to get a letter for a structure to be, you had to get a letter from the state saying it's eligible to be on the national registry. We did that in 2023. That letter's still fine in terms of their process. So we didn't do that this time around, but we have that requirement. But any other structure in town, we've already missed that deadline.
So because of
Unless you had
that,
Reagan, yeah, sorry.
it doesn't make any difference whether we just as well apply for this grant because anything we do to it has to follow these guidelines anyhow, if it gets on that list.
It's not been registered yet. We have a letter that says it is eligible. So because the building has not been registered, a volunteer could go do whatever they want to right now. That may disqualify the building for future historic preservation grants, though, if the proper.
I think you do it the right way. If they're gonna put this on the registry, if they're gonna keep calling this a historic building that we have to save and not, as some people have suggested, replace with a shed, for storage of equipment. So if they're gonna call historic and try to save it,
I wanna see use ideas first.
Mhm.
I wanna know, just like the grant is gonna wanna know. I wanna know what it's gonna be used for.
no, I agree with you there.
There's no point in dumping $50,000 into a shed
Agreed.
that's gonna remain a shed.
Right. No, I hear you.
I mean, that just, I mean,
Well, we've asked-
An empty shed is an empty shed. no
We've
matter
asked
what
that for the-
condition it's in.
that's very true.
We've asked that for the carriage barn. We've asked that for the little building down on the green. You know, and everybody has a lot of ideas. No one has identified what it is, right? I mean, the little building, they were talking about hanging pamphlets in, making it a stop for bikers. They talked about 20 different things. We really need to know, you know, somebody needs to decide what they're gonna do with it and then present it.
Mhm.
And does this grant come around yearly? At least historically has.
Yeah, it was like December 2023, so it's a little bit, it's been a little bit more than a year. I think they were waiting to see what was happening at the federal level because these funds come down through the National Park Service.
Just wondering if we don't hit the June date,
They're here to do with
Yeah.
the Park Service.
every other mic's on, he covers his like it makes anybody.
I was gonna say something else, so I had modified it to last
There
minute,
you go.
realizing that. Okay.
So it sounds like we are just gonna wait to hear what the conservation committee wants to do, but you've
Yeah.
heard what we've said, and that tiered approach, I think is.
I mean, I will, I'll be here at the May meeting, but at that point, it'll probably be it'll be due in a week. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I can certainly email you all if you like.
If the conservation commission is really gung ho about applying for this, then by all means let us know, but I
Yep.
think we have
They should-
reservations.
They should present the select board with some sort of a plan and a future use for it.
Okay.
Which I think is what's been said
Yep,
about Red Wall.
yep.
So.
All right,
Moving on to the other grant opportunities. So this is another one of those little ones that I think like, you know, this project could even like go for, right? So East Rise, it's a credit union locally, right? But they take lots of requests, they fund lots of community projects, amounts are up to $5,000 or I guess you can even go beyond that, but you know, if you want to review monthly under $5,000 projects, they'll do that. But again, their areas are food security, access to housing, financial well-being, and sense of community. So I was thinking, you know, that, you know, it is a central building, could build a sense of community. Could also think about things like 4th of July celebrations, other festivals that we have here in town. I think could also be subject of an application. Perfect. Todd's not here, but I plan to talk about this one with him. The Vermont Association of Conservation Districts has a rural fire protection grant, and they're really interested in installation of new dry hydrants or water supply sources that increase public safety. I did send that one to the officers at the fire department, Ginger, Todd, and Matt, and hadn't really heard anything back from them, so I can check in with them again. Another one for the Conservation Commission maybe would be this, I found this Retree Orchard program. Basically it's a kind of a cool thing. It's a nonprofit that comes in, they'll plant a fruit orchard and then do education with kids around it. So it could be something for the school.
That and the farm to table program with the school, and I don't know if Rachel Huff is still in charge of that or leading that.
Yeah.
But when I read that, I thought.
Yeah.
That farm to table program might really be interesting.
Yeah.
The only thing you'd be lacking there is property.
Yep.
baseball field things back there, right? Just fill it in. We do have the ball field back here.
Right down the foot of the hill here.
No, they're trying to
They're
get that
talking
back
about
up and
having that
going.
back up and running.
Are they?
They've got plenty of outfield that's beyond home run range.
That's true.
That's fine, but there's plenty of outfield beyond the home
Yeah.
run range.
Yeah,
You could have a small orchard.
yeah. I bet we could find the land. for
So what else you have?
And then Vermont Humanities Council's grant. This one's a little bit of a stretch, I feel like, but it's up to $5,000. Inviting participation in humanities discourse, and that's a pretty broad thing. They're basically just saying anything that teaches about the human experience. So it could be a number of different things. You know, enriching culture, basically. That's it as far as grant opportunities coming up right away.
That one for
Awesome.
the orchards, is
Mhm.
that something that you would be able to forward on to the school, or do you want? us to-
I'm not sure if I have a contact at the school to do that. Can I connect with you on email, Nikki? And I'm happy to pass it on to whoever.
That'd be boom over.
No, it would be whoever's in charge of the, like you said,
Farm to
the farm to table, which actually isn't necessarily a school
Thing,
thing.
but the school would know.
School would know who would just.
I was just thinking.
Maybe Dawn
it's not approved,
Reed.
you know.
Well, yeah, you could go to Michelle, but Dawn Reed's the district foods person.
Oh,
She
yeah.
may, she
Moved
would,
to a central
yeah,
office.
central office.
Yes.
So I thought, okay, thanks.
Yep, and then, so just as I mentioned earlier, our contract's coming up in June 10th. So
I would be willing to make a motion. Even this early date that we renew a contract with Alex.
I'll second it.
I would just say.
you want me to send you a new
send it
draft?
something with what-
Yeah, we need it, well,
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, assuming you would like to continue.
Yeah,
the-
yeah, of
okay.
course. The only thing I will say is, my wife and I are expecting child number 2 in June.
awesome,
Congratulations.
So I will be taking a few weeks, once the baby comes to,
Yeah.
you know, acclimate. And, so as long as there are no imminent deadlines in the later part of June or early July, I'm
How
on.
far
board.
apart are they?
Our kids,
Will
Felix
they-
is 4.5. So
nice.
That's not too bad.
not too bad, but he's gonna be a big brother,
He's
a
gonna
good.
have some opinions.
He definitely does.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, he was not on board at first, but now he is. Now he is.
So I think the next step would be to, if you wouldn't mind drafting what your ideas of what the contract should look like for the next year.
Yep.
Um,
How many hours do we have left?
So depends on how you count it. I guess if you're talking, it's up top there, John, in my update. We've done
35.
77.5 altogether, but some of that's been split with the other
Split, so.
entities, which I wasn't accounting for when we first did the contract.
Right.
So we haven't used 100 hours in a year, so I could keep it the same
Yeah.
if you want. The other things that I would say that I've noticed throughout this engagement is that things that I could offer could also be some project management support.
Yeah.
Like, so
That would be-
like
Yes.
like things that John, you're trying to get this MERP thing going, right? Like, are there things that I could help you pick off as my day job when I know it's not your
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Obviously there's a cost to that for the town, but just I could include something like that.
I think at least on the library side for the MERP project, it would benefit them, because I just don't think Hadley,
There's not the expertise there.
right.
You know.
Well, I'm not, I was just gonna say time constraints, but yeah, that too. Yeah, I was just thinking it would be perfect for them down there to have somebody who can project manage it, because I was actually gonna suggest trying to pull it in with me, but I'm resource bound, but I can, because I'm concerned, not to get sideways, but my understanding is we still haven't filed the Historic Preservation Trust form yet. And if we haven't done that, it's a month wait. Yeah, it's over a month wait, can be, before you get approval. Then you have to wait for approval to continue the project. So we're in a holding pattern down there until we get this stuff filled out. And if they're too resource bound.
I know
maybe
Hadley
the
was
answer
working
is-
on it the other day.
Was she?
Yeah, she was talking to me about
so
it.
that being said, that's definitely an option that we would like to see in the
Yep.
contract also then.
Okay.
If that's something that you're willing to do.
Sure.
Yep.
That the other things too, I know that there are like narrative reports that need to be written about these things too. Obviously, I'd need to be like well in the loop about what's happening in terms of like repairs to the building in that case or things like that.
Monthly updates.
You might not
Right.
have to be the guy that does on the
computer?
state website.
As long as I know what's happening, that's my challenge, right? Like I
Yeah.
can't write about it unless I know what's happening.
I'm
and so-
already the one that's registered.
So I would say hang around for the MERP update,
On the portal, so.
because I do have an update.
Yep.
Yeah, but tell me you wouldn't mind just handing that portal off.
All right. So
He lucked out.
before,
He got approved, his got approved before the portal changed, so he's still on the old portal. I'm on the new portal for mine.
I haven't even looked at the portal. I'm doing SR.
I just got through
The
learning the
effort.
old portal and completely redid it.
I'll wait until I have to submit something. I'm not up to that part yet, except for filling out the
You're gonna
paper.
be on the new one then.
That's all good.
so that might increase the number of hours too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I can take a look at that, and of course we can adjust.
Yeah, it's
So I'll send a draft, and you feel free to respond via email, or we can talk about it next time I'm here.
perfect.
Works for me.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
guys.
much, Alex.
Yeah.
Thank you. Alex.
I'll stick around for the MERP thing, John.
Or please, yeah, just so you're informed,
What's that?
just so you're informed.
I haven't heard from you.
All right.
Planning grant. Planning.
Roads.
commissions, right?
Brian,
Brian,
come on up here. Come on up
Come on
here for a
down.
minute.
Well, not off long.
man, he's running. Leave him be.
Going faster, we should have started earlier.
Ah, want to turn on your mic? Thank you, sir.
Testing, 1, 2, is it live or Memorex?
All right.
You're dating yourself there.
So just one of the things I see right off looking at this, we're looking to expand into the next unit.
Oh, for the
Gravel
gravel
pit.
pit.
Okay, yep. I haven't seen that paperwork.
Oh, okay,
yet.
you haven't seen this. What Max sent me said he wasn't gonna be able to make it, but he said, let me pull it up here. Probably not gonna make it. There's a stack of papers for you to look at, need some signatures, give them a look about a pit expansion. Brian is supposed to be there. You can always ask him if you have any questions or shoot me a text. Where do we need to sign?
On the dotted line.
On the dotted line. Do you think, as a board, do we think it could be an issue that our pollution prevention team is Brian Wescombe? Fine. He's listed as the town selectman. Mac Newitt, Mark Allen, and Raymond Dragon.
That probably needs updating.
It should probably be updated.
Yeah.
If I had to guess. Just one of the things that I see, just quickly flipping through. Kinda wish Mac was here because I'm not super familiar with what the next phase of the pit is. And a
I
lot
want
of,
to finish up
Well, we
that.
got kind of a little leeway because of the incident in, when was it?
22,
20,
21.
21. The storm we had. in,
Right.
Oh, okay.
Thanksgiving, Jesus, sorry.
Halloween.
Halloween storm.
I mean,
FEMA flood.
FEMA gave us some grace on that.
okay,
So, because of our expanded use of the pit, we had to jump ahead on their proposed schedule.
right. And should I'm looking at stuff stamped in.
We still have some where we're set up right now. Probably get halfway through the summer on that.
And which way are you going right now, Brian?
Right now, we're down to you're pulling in.
Yep.
We're way down to the left.
Yep.
We still got the rest of that bank back to the tree line to take out there. And then I believe we want to come back where all the kind of garbage stuff is.
The
Yeah,
road,
Try
the
to take
old,
some of that bank out.
the old road,
Huh?
the old driveway.
Yep.
Yeah,
Head up
you
up.
gotta get down into where the old sugar house was.
Oh, we won't make it there for where the old sugar house was for probably 3 years.
Okay.
But yeah, up along
Still
that
some
road,
antiques I'd like to haul out of there.
There's what?
Some antiques.
Oh,
There's some old sledges in there.
Yeah.
Sleds and sledges.
yeah, you gotta be careful going in there because,
I know the roof is.
well, not only that, but there's a lot of ticks in there.
Oh,
A lot of ticks, a lot of wood ticks now. They're not the deer ticks, but
okay.
because it's so dry, you know what I mean?
So according to this map, Brian, this says phase 3, because you're in phase 2 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Phase 3 would actually be behind where you are, heading back towards. Well, I'm talking to you. Heading back towards the old dome pit.
Right. Which
So-
is,
So it wouldn't be going up the driveway yet. Unless I'm reading that wrong. Is that what that says? Or is
They
that,
ran into
well, you got that, little-
bedrock up there.
you got that draw right there,
Yeah.
behind where we are right now.
mm-hmm,
Kind of goes down like this and then it comes back up to where the roadway is.
right, that's this part here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They ran into bedrock and they ran into a lot of material that they thought they might have been pushed out of the dome pit.
That's over on the far right, I believe.
Okay. So that's down over here. Okay.
well, no, that's
It's where it's
over
filled
there's
in.
that's camp.
Oh, shit. Which way is north here? Let's do it that
This
way.
is the road right here
There we
coming
go.
in.
Yep.
They're done this section here, which
Yep.
is phase 2. phase 3 is right under, right here,
That's along the berm line, yeah.
heading back towards the old dome pit.
Over.
Done last year.
Oh, will you be quiet?
Oh, why it's so mouthy today?
They ran into some material over here. That was,
So the far right looks like when,
Okay.
Geddes stripped
Right.
out and took their out of there.
the stuff they
Far
bulldozed,
right
the
looks
stuff
like-
they bulldozed off the top of the knoll.
It looks
There
like
used to
we-
be a hill there, if you
Yep,
remember.
I remember.
And when
Clicking
they
up from
cleared
the-
off the top, it looks like it ended up in here.
Okay. Yeah, so that's, so the way this looks is we wouldn't get in there until phase 5. So we'd come, you pull up in,
Mhm.
we'd start right there to the immediate right. As soon as you pull in beyond the berm, that would be phase 4. And then, sorry, phase 3. And then phase 4 would be everything. Basically, when you pull up
Forward,
in
going up into the
straight
meadow.
all the way to the, well, according to this, all the way to the tree line or close to the tree line. And then phase 5 would be to the right of that, basically right over the top of Doan's Pit or over to the top of Doan's Pit. Phase 6 is then the first part of the road. So we want to make sure that we go in the right direction here.
There's
And I can show you that you can read this too. I mean, it's not. I just want to make sure that we're going in the right spots. You know, we don't want to be.
Phase, yeah.
So we can't sign this yet because it needs updating, is that what I'm saying?
Well, I mean.
When's it due?
Realistically, I think it should have been updated probably 10 years ago.
When's this thing due?
It's just before they can move into the next section. So I mean, there's probably some time. I can't remember the guy's name that comes up and does it, but he's also the one that comes up and did the roads, I think. Jamie's sticking out in my mind, but I don't think it's Jamie.
I can't remember, I'm sorry.
Yes.
It used to be George DeSalle.
Do we table this for the next meeting? And
I,
Mac address the concerns?
I think we might have to, just because, I mean,
There are areas that they identified in the original survey that are usable that really won't provide us with the material that we expected.
Right.
okay. So that would,
For instance, over
this
in
is a
here,
different, yep,
there's a bedrock dome
yep.
and they ran, that's the sump right over here. And Brian was digging, he ran into an unexpected rise in the bedrock there too.
Which would be right on, that would be like your, what would that be? You'd be. your-
Edge of phase 2, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the western edge of phase 2.
Okay. I mean. Yeah, I think, I don't see any place to sign on this one anyway, but I think we're gonna need to talk to Mac and make sure. Tyler,
That might be,
I think Tyler, that name's. He might be your guy that's doing it's not Act 250.
I don't remember that guy's name. I only met him once.
that was a long time ago, Brad. I do have to say that, it's paid for itself.
Oh, yeah,
Has to
Yeah.
do that every time we talk about it.
I know.
that has probably been the best investment the town has made in the last 60 years, I would say.
Yeah. Tyler.
Yep.
So, so this is from Scott Baker. Barnard and Jarvis, who would be the surveyors. Working with Mac and Tyler. I don't remember Tyler's last name, but.
I should, but I don't.
This one must be the one that requires signatures. Not an easy document to navigate if you don't know what you're looking for.
Billingsley.
That makes sense. That sounds familiar. Alright, Yeah, we might have to
Now
table
that you
this.
have different neighbors over there, how difficult would it be to get a blasting crushing permit?
I don't think it would be at this point. I've been proven wrong
Might be.
before.
Might be something well worth discussing as we hit ledge
Mhm.
and shells.
Do we need to table this for?
And do it while we're there instead of burying it up, reclaiming it and then digging it up 2 years down the road.
Problem there is I think you're gonna wanna have a pretty substantial amount exposed before you bring that in.
Well, that's the problem when you're doing it in sections is you're never gonna have a section that's exposed.
Yeah,
And it makes no sense to bury it up with
there are no,
topsoil and seed it down and everything, only to undig it 2 years
Well,
later.
and I guess that would go along with this same discussion is, do we get,
pull up the map.
Cause you
That's
can
on this
get,
one.
like right now, with
Last
the
page of
way the
this one.
floods have been. And what I've been reading,
yeah, and the material that
we're
we're
good.
getting out of there for the roads it's good material, but it does have that grease effect to it.
Some of it does.
Some of it.
So
the stone would
3
be-
years ago, we ran into a stretch that had
It was
a
landing.
higher clay content, which
Yeah.
made it a little greasy on the roads.
Yeah.
The recent material has been a lot better.
Yeah.
If we had an area that went back this way of any width, it would be worth, but we don't.
Right. So that's why I say this this topic would be a good one to bring up with Tyler and Barnard and Jarvis. And just be like, hey, look, if this is something we can get approved through the town. Can we adjust the Act 250 permit to include blasting? And if that's something that we're gonna do sooner than later,
well, what the state is finding out is they're not making any more rock.
that's very true. Yep.
So
Not making any more.
if you get it now and just renew it every 2 years, it might make it that much easier if another flood comes along.
Yep. Yeah,
When?
Yes, not if, when. Cause it will.
or
happen.
hopefully before.
Not while I'm still on the board, please. Thank you.
Hopefully before the next flood comes along. Yeah, so if we can table this until the first meeting in May. I don't think he said it was dire. Well, it had to happen today. And if it does, if he needs it, Tammy, if he comes in and this is something he needs right off. Have him call me and then we can discuss what's gotta happen with it. So,
I have a minor thing, so the grate outside the library on the handicap parking spot is completely covered in a mat of leaves and muck and mud. And I tried to shift it and I couldn't with my foot.
Okay, that's like
Um,
the 18 by 18,
Yeah.
2 foot by 2 foot, okay.
So
We can probably clean that out tomorrow.
just- It's just that it's the handicap bay. The last thing we need is somebody.
Yep.
Kathy also brought up to my attention last week when I was here. She can't remember the last time the septic tank was pumped.
I brought this up a few years, like 2 years ago, we talked about this. They don't even know what's under there. They don't know if it's a tank, a car. They have no idea. And the only
It's a
way to pump
tank.
it, there's no clean out.
It's a tank.
They gotta,
And
they
there is
gotta
a
go in
clean out.
through the basement. The theory was they gotta suck it back through the pipe because there was no clean out according to what I was told.
Right down across from that window.
Well, I'm glad you know, because no one knew when we talked the last.
So if you
500
could,
gallon metal tank, isn't it?
No, it's a cement one.
Is it?
so
Wow.
if we could locate that cover,
From what I was told.
and maybe call,
Somebody-
That's
I mean,
garage.
we can call whoever. I've been working with Working Dog lately.
Dog works good.
Yeah,
The ones
they've been-
down in Wind River's
under
good.
the-
I mean,
Yeah. So if we could get that pumped
Probably.
just to ease any
Concerns.
concerns.
We don't want to have
And
to
maybe-
be reactive, do.
Right, yeah, I'd prefer to get pumped before it gets plugged. I saw you guys replace the board out here. Thank you
Yeah.
for that. That looks
Oh,
good.
thank you.
Yeah, they actually put a piece of, it looks like that, particle or rubber board
It's the
tracks
deck.
decking, so that'll take a beating better than a piece of,
I'm not sure I did it.
Well, I don't know.
I backdragged when I cleaned it out and the board ended up way down here.
We're gonna blame you either way. so.
Okay.
I think those were the only two things that Kathy had brought up to me.
I'm on listening.
Did you guys, where'd you guys work today, if you don't? mind?
Today, what did we do today? We did that, we got the screener up and running, we put the new screen on the screener. We got the tires up to put on the front of the trucks.
The, that corner between Gregoire's and Claude's on Egypt,
Okay,
where the ledge comes right down to, you know, where it gets, I don't wanna say narrow, but it's trees on both sides. and it's
mm-hmm.
yeah, between Claude's and the corner. That got pretty chewed up this weekend. Turkey hunters, lots of them. It was like the only soft spot on that stretch.
We put,
There
we were
was some
talking where we put the stone in?
Yeah, there was some stone in it.
Just up from, what used to be, Geddes' tenement house?
Yep. So
Yeah.
on, yeah, like you said, on
Yeah, the
Claude's,
right-hand side.
on
coming in.
Claude's side of that right there,
Yeah.
it was starting to, I see where you put stone.
Yeah.
It was just before where the stone was. It looks like it's getting chewed up
Yeah,
again.
we
So.
were over there this morning.
Okay, perfect. I assumed you guys would be out that way checking roads. but-
Question,
Yeah,
when you have, if we ever get to the point where we can blast in that pit, we'd have to hire someone to screen it. We don't have the equipment to screen that, do we?
Not the blast stuff, no, interior.
I think-
We don't, I know we don't have a crusher,
Right,
but we don't have the capability of screening either, do we?
you could screen it to a certain degree, you know, you'd be able to go like 1 inch, 3 inch. And maybe 5 or 6 inch.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
you wouldn't make rock fine or anything like that.
Okay.
And I think that's the thing is if we go in there and blast that, you're also gonna have to hire somebody to come in and crush it too. because-
That was
yeah,
my question,
yeah.
basically, yeah.
And they can pretty much, they can crush to whatever you want, can't
Well,
they?
even with the blasting that they do nowadays, they can blast it right down to, so that when the shot goes off, you got 5, 6 inch rocks.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, in a lot of
Depends
places
on how hard that is too.
where we use the oversized rock, that's perfect because you want the jagged edges to hold it together as the water comes down through, you know, if it's round rock. it
Right.
just-
Tumbles, a
Water pushes it right down through.
little bit of an archaeologist lesson. That's why it's round.
All right.
Well, if you-
Dead serious.
Oh,
When the glaciers came through, broke the ledges off and they were all jagged and, you know, crushed basically by the glaciers. And then as the glacial rivers washed through, the rocks were tumbling, which made them round. That's where you get your gravel.
Want to hear some very eerie music during a flood. Go up and on Waterville Mountain Road.
Oh, yeah.
Listen to the rocks as they bang
Oh,
together
yeah.
through the culverts.
He was here for that, actually.
I was here for part of that.
Some
Yeah.
pretty wild stuff.
That was weird.
I had 3 guys with me that night that we went up in there back in the 89 flood or 86 flood, something like that.
I was here for that one, but I wasn't
You
here.
know, they're going boing, 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 boing. And the guy's like, it's making, I said, that's the rocks hitting together under the water. There ain't that much water. That noise is.
All right. Any other
Okay.
others on roads?
No.
No. Okay. Jumping down to board business, we'll do the MERP update
Yeah,
so
and
that
Alex-
Alex
So
can
we
get
can let
that.
Alex get
and-
out of here.
And then we can carry on with the other board business that needs to happen. You're good there, Brian. He's just giving an update. It's coming from the board out, so you're good right there. Don't worry about that.
So regarding MERP, I met with the buildings and grounds people, a couple Fridays ago. We went over the building. I showed them the concerns. They saw what the concerns were regarding heat pumps in this big area. They estimated, actually, I think he estimated more than I did for the upstairs and down here.
It's good.
We have several copies of the paperwork they sent out to us. The good news is for the town hall, they agreed that we should just replace the existing forced hot air oil furnaces with a newer, more efficient hot air oil furnace.
Isn't that what you kind of have been arguing for all along?
Yes, I won that one. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, so But yeah, so they said that, we have to work out 1, 2 units, but that's what the providers, whoever we decide, but they were on board with doing it. There was a great concern that we were not properly funded for this project, that we're underfunded. So that's the only challenge we're going to have, the funding, for the town hall. We'll see where it comes in. But the last quote for the furnaces make it much easier for us. On the other side of the pendulum, or sticking with this for one moment, this report, I asked them, and we have to sign off that we accept these changes, which right now I think we should. The other portion is the 5 single pane wood panel windows on the attic roof. I tried to explain that the attic's more set up like a cold attic, as it was explained to me. And we want to, I think that that would not be a good use of the funds, since we already know we're underfunded, to keep the air out of the cold attic. It just didn't make any sense because it's supposed to be that way. But they said they're going to go back and take a look at that again. Worst case scenario, we have to replace the windows and use those funds. Flip to the library very quickly. We went through the library. The determination was the space is small enough that a heat pump would suffice. However, they did like the furnace you have in there already. So the thought process behind the library was augment that with a heat pump and let that keep the original boiler in the basement, so that when the temperatures get too low, you can still heat the library. So keep the existing, put in a heat pump to help with everything it can until it's no longer efficient, and then go from there. Otherwise, they were good with everything on the library side. Now, the concern, and we briefly touched on it, was the historical preservation trust. There's a form that has to be filled out. It takes a month. They take up to a month to get back with an approval. The library has to get that form filled out. The reason being is, without that form, they can't proceed. They have to get approval from the Historical Preservation Trust.
Doing that.
Yes, I stopped at the library on Saturday, and she had with some questions to fill out that form, so, and she had it up on the computer, so I know she was in process.
Primarily, Alex, what you're looking at is anything that would impact the aesthetics of the building and or ground disturbance. Now, I don't know what's considered ground disturbance when it comes to a heat pump, because there's an outside unit. I think they just put like a little concrete slab down, set that on there, and of course you have to have enough to cover the roof of anything that would slide off snow and all, wise, a little hut over it, or a lean-to. But for the rest of it, the only other concern is that entrance door and the aesthetics. You're gonna have to take multiple pictures of that thing. You're gonna have to send it off. They may say that you can't replace that door. They may say that you're gonna have to put in new framing to tighten the door up of the similar and look and feel nature. Could come back from the Historic Preservation Trust. So let's hope that they approve it. That we did get the town building approved. I got that through. I already did that. That was pretty easy when we're not doing any ground disturbance and we're not changing the outside aesthetic, except for the windows, if that has to happen.
Did they say anything about the ADA portions of that work?
It does talk about ADA,
So-
about leaving a button.
The key with the ADA piece in these things, as what was agreed on, it was not, we have to spend 20% of the production cost. It says it's a maximum of 20% of the construction cost. According to Building Grounds and Services, and they do call out a push button open and close for that door, but doesn't mean that it has to cost a fortune. Same thing with out here with the ramp. We replaced the railing or knocked the railing off and put a two by down to make it lower, so it becomes a secondary railing on the first 2x. We don't have to spend 20% of the funds. It was a maximum of 20% of the funds could go to it.
That's not at all how their documents read today.
Well, and I could say right here down on point 4, and I know you don't have it in front of you, but you can come up and look at it. ADA improvements. Asterisk, only 20% of the construction costs can be used on ADA upgrades. Yeah, you might as well hold on to one of them. Because they put us together, which is fine. I just want to make sure that the library is moving forward, because this is a 2026 deadline. Not that they're gonna need it, right? This is like a 1 year only here, so to get this stuff done. So long and short, we're approved. We're gonna be able to keep our oil burners, so we don't have to get crazy with anything with that. I did talk about the electric service upgrade just because it's so bad and they wanna smart thermostats and everything else. And if there's funds left over, it was in the original project to upgrade the electrical service, so we'll see what we can do. We also have to do it in the order they present, A, B, C, D. So for the town building, it's the windows, which we're debating, then the floor sweeps, the door sweeps, which is another thing. We have 72 linear foot of door sweeps. It's every entrance and doors. I would like to request permission to have the road crew, somebody from the road crew install those and save the money so we can use them on what we need, the heaters, versus bringing in a general contractor. It's going to charge us, triple what the door sweep costs to have them put in. And it's just attaching door sweeps on the doors.
This question, the library trustees had that question because they didn't feel like they had the length, I'm not sure what it is in here. But it felt like a.
80 linear feet. So what it is just put it on all the doors, right? Just put the door sweeps on all the doors. I told them when they were here, there's no way we're putting door sweeps on those doors. The gap is huge. It's like, that would be a waste of time, but the front door, they agreed, the front door, the basement door, this door, and the doors for the second floor. Yeah, I don't know how, well, here's the other problem, and I may have mentioned this the last meeting, I don't remember, so I apologize. What was found was the reports that we were supposedly were done for our two buildings were wrong. They had us propane heat, they had all kinds of stuff. You don't have 80 linear feet. We don't have 76 linear feet. There was all, in what was presented to them, and that's why we're not budgeted appropriately.
Maybe they're going all the way around all the doors.
Maybe they're going all the windows. I have both sides on the end, but it says door sweep, so I'm assuming that's the bottom. But my thought is if we can get, when we get these, either the road crew or come over on a Saturday and just slam these things in, I don't see the use in us spending the money on a general contractor to do that. I don't want to climb up in an attic and put bat up there. That's not my gig, right? I'm not replacing windows. Door sweeps can be done by any one of us. Just come over and zoom with a, screw gun.
There's only 10 doors in this building. If you take 3 feet, and they're not even 3 feet.
Right. It just doesn't make sense what they put. The other thing is we have to purchase everything up front. We get reimbursed for it on the back end. And that's key for the library, right?
The library asked about that. And we don't need to have the conversation now. They are aware of that. because we-
Right. Well, they have a fund, right?
Yeah.
They have that fund.
Yeah, they felt like because you can do a reimbursement phases that they would be okay. When I talked to them, they may have decided something different. They had like $10,000 in that fund. So
Yeah.
Spend out of that
Yeah.
reimbursement and.
They wanted reassurance that they would be reimbursed.
Right. Well, that's what so we have to expend it, then we have to upload the receipts, and Lance knows all about uploading documents on the web pages. We have to upload all the receipts, we get reimbursement, you put the money out for the next piece of the project, unless you have enough funds for all of them. I don't think the library does. I don't know if the town building does.
They say anything about the business library because that was also a.
Five on there, if you read that highlighted bit, somewhere in that section, it talks about 5 windows.
So replacing 4 existing single pane windows.
We couldn't find them when we did that walkthrough. I don't know if there is a single pane over there, is there? In the basement?
Picture frame size panes.
Maybe that's what they're talking about.
That is an issue.
Yeah, so we thought like maybe that was gonna be resolved with replacing the door, but.
Right.
Keep
You
the.
can't replace the door.
Right.
Well, that's the question. They gotta put in the paperwork and show pictures and say that they're gonna do their best to get a like in kind door in there. A similar grade and quality. It's just what it is.
What's wrong with the door? Why can't you replace the door?
Sticks and stuff.
Because the building is 50 years old, Historic Preservation Trust, which is a part of this on the back end. They have the capability of denying your application to do any of this work if you change the aesthetic of the building.
Yeah, but as long as you get a door that looks.
Looks the same, right?
Thermo-Tru makes a door that will match any door that you have.
They were talking
Right.
about widening.
They want to widen the door is the other problem. Well, if you take out the panes on both sides, you have a much wider door. Well, we could send the pictures and the suggestions and get them to approve or disapprove it.
I've got a couple of suggestions just gave to Nikki
Yeah.
and maybe the door issue can be resolved, but I mean, that's nothing we're gonna solve here tonight anyway.
No, right. So, I mean, on the MERP side, like I said, they've gone through it. We have made our case. We've won some of our battles. I went back for a second one real quick. That form though for historic is important. It's got to get done. The longer you wait, the less time you have to do the work. Thank you. That's it.
All right, we got a couple more.
Thanks, Alex.
Couple more things we'll jump through before we get into. John, this says for John.
Or John.
For
Oh,
John.
yeah.
For-
Sorry.
I also have a thing here that says, I emailed this to John. Have a good weekend, Tom. It's the generator.
Yeah, so the generator repairs are complete. It was they found two things that are gonna come up in 2026's maintenance. One is air filters, that's nothing. The one that's gonna cost us is the batteries need to be replaced. I don't know if it's 1, 2, 8, I don't know how many are over there.
Batteries,
Two, so it can't be too bad, but it's gonna be,
That's probably something we could do
best thing. to get
without
your-
getting Cat involved.
Yeah, the best thing to do with the batteries on that is to go right down to Interstate Battery.
Yeah,
That's
pick
where
up-
I used to get them for it.
yeah, pick up a set of
They're
interstates.
actually Volvo batteries, I believe in.
Are they?
If we could take pictures of the batteries and then just go grab them, yeah. No, you're talking interstate in South Burlington?
Yeah.
I literally work 2 minutes from that place. I can drive them back up if we
The
buy
only
them.
problem is
put 'em
they'd
on
have
account.
a core deposit on these, so you'd.
Have to
and I-
make
I've
It'll
been-
be 2 trips.
Yeah.
It'll be 2 trips.
Just-
We just want to get the money
Take
back right
two-
away.
Take 2 dead batteries from down at the town garage. They don't have to be the exact battery.
They don't have. to
Well,
be
that's true too. And we can just scratch
Just
the
have to be
backs.
battery and
Oh.
roughly the same size.
Attached to this
Yeah.
was 2 W9s. One that
W9s?
says, yeah, one that says Bakersfield Town Library, and one that says.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. I emailed those off already. That was another MERP thing we had to send in the W9s.
They didn't have
Was it MERP? Who was that? Somebody didn't have our W9s for something I had to
Didn't
send.
have
them.
anything to do with the generator.
No, absolutely nothing.
All right.
I'm trying to remember.
There you go.
Ask for a copy of our insurance.
This
Yeah.
is.
So yeah, that's definitely MERP because the library's there as well. And to Lance's point, they're probably gonna ask for copies of our insurance then. For the buildings.
Okay. Just trying to buzz through the last of these things. Next. To the Bakersfield Select Board. I am resigning my position as lister for the town of Bakersfield effective today, April 28th, 2025. Personal problems have made it too difficult for me to continue to do this job. I've enjoyed being a lister, especially visiting new homes. Yours truly, Susan Sonsky.
Do we have to accept her resignation?
We do have to accept her
Yes.
resignation.
It's for health reasons.
Yeah.
She can't, yeah.
So I would make a motion that we accept her resignation and also extend our gratitude for all of the work that she's done over the past.
I will second that.
Very
More than a
well.
decade.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're all opposed too, but we can't vote that way.
We are opposed, but yeah.
Um,
So
Which
Sue,
is
if you're
gonna put
listening,
us-
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Now, what are you two girls gonna do? Lance wants to be a lister?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you really?
not really, no.
Was it?
Only if he can go assess his own property, he said,
Um,
$1.
if we can't come up with someone to replace Sue, we need somebody to fill this position, at least for this summer.
Is that something that you can? Is that something that you can look into?
Have you had any interest from anybody who?
Pat was the last person who did it and he resigned as well, right? Wasn't
He
it Pat?
resigned about a week after he started. He was like,
Nah,
no,
it was long.
no, it was longer than that. I just,
Yeah,
It's
How,
hard for
how,
somebody who
what,
works full
how,
time.
how long is the training class?
There's, the training's 4 days, That's already happened, but they'll let you take it, watch the recording, but it has to be proctored. for you
Okay.
to get the credit for it.
Hmm.
There's lots of webinars, there's a Lister open meeting law this Thursday.
Yeah.
There's a
Saw that.
land use schedule class.
Do they have these fairly frequently? Okay.
Well, not, you mean repeated?
Once a year.
Repeated, no. Once a year, like the data collection classes in Rutland, that's 2 days 1 week, 2 days the next week. A lot. A lot more than that.
Way to sell that, Tammy. Thank you.
Um,
You made that so
Do you-
appealing.
you didn't answer Josh. Do you have any idea that there is anybody out there that might be interested in this job?
Stanford thought, because she'd be great, but she said, no, I mean, it pays so little, that's the thing, and it's a lot of hours learning. It's gonna be increased hours with the reappraisal.
Yeah.
They're gonna start, they wanted us to do something, I'm calling like, I'm not sure how to do it, we pleaded our ignorance, so they're gonna come out. And, what they needed, and then we can discuss more about what's expected, and there's certain things, like there's a 3-pronged post appraisal test that the town has to pass after this. We need to make sure they know, I'm sure they do, what needs to happen here, so we do pass it. There's just,
Well, that
it'd
would,
be great to have a mail when we're out in the woods, measuring trip houses, and, you know, I mean, when we inspect houses, that would be nice.
well, they get those angry people. Like me.
What jobs are compatible?
Well, yeah, it may not be a,
Oh, no, from the Selectboard, maybe be on there, I don't know,
well,
check that out.
if you could, check that out
You could
and,
also put something on the website saying,
Yeah.
hey, opportunity.
and put something out on the website, see if we can get anybody to step
bite.
up, to,
About the only one you
Be a
can't.
great job for someone who's.
If no
really
one
retired.
else can be
even auditors.
found, Josh, I would reluctantly consider doing this, but I would like to give it a little time and see if we can find somebody
Yeah.
else.
Without a
first.
doubt. I think that's one of the things that we should try to get away from is the same people
Well.
running
for
all the
everything.
boards and all the, not that it's a bad thing. I mean, we appreciate the work that all the people in the town here are doing. It's just, there's a lot of people in our town and
There are others.
there's
that could-
not a
It's
lot
worth
that-
noting that the state is looking at and totally recognizes the issue that we have a
Right.
lack
Yeah.
of resources
Right,
in
and a
this.
lot of
sector.
towns we just haven't hired an assessor yet, because it takes 3 years to learn the job,
Yeah,
and
This is not really a volunteer job, it's a professional
It's-
thing.
yeah.
and being elected is, you kind of want to hire somebody, appoint somebody. And you can appoint outside the town. And somebody who knows what they're doing, I mean,
Is there firms?
there are assessors.
Would you look into that, please?
Yep, just
Yeah.
to see, just to give us an idea.
And maybe see if any local towns-
Yeah,
And see what they're, because they have an assessor that comes in every week. And works.
Yep.
You know, because it's not seasonal anymore. It's like
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
And
If nothing else, maybe that would give us an idea as to what we would need to budget to
To do
fill that position for next year. That would be good.
It's not like we have a choice with this. I mean,
No.
it has to be
Has to be done well, has to be done well.
Okay.
And it's getting more and more complicated. I mean, the district advisors are like that, because legislatures changing laws.
Frankly,
and they
in
don't
my
really
life,
know.
I'm looking for the simple.
Tammy, you're still not doing a very good job of selling this
I
position.
hear you.
All right, I'm gonna keep going.
Yes.
No, it's fine. We're trying to get people to volunteer. He's over there going, this job sucks.
It kind of
No.
breaks down on.
Next one, room reservation is the title of the email. Says, hi, Tammy. Tim is hosting a EDD meeting. I don't know what that is. Okay, of about 15 people, June 3rd at the Fairfield Community Center Pavilion. In the event of inclement weather, may they use the room at the Bakersfield offices that the select board meets in? If so, please let me know.
This is a meeting you said, right?
Yeah,
Who's gonna open the building up?
well, it's a Wednesday. Does it say a time?
I'm sure it's not between 8 and noon. Pretty sure it's not between 8 and noon.
Well, it depends on I don't know what EDD stands for.
I think we need to understand what time, and then we need to make sure someone's available and what they're
So
doing.
Drina is communicating with you already? He communicated with you already? So if you could just ask her a time so that if need be, there could be somebody here to open the door. And there is a building use form that needs to be
Request
filled
form.
out. And then it would come back to us, obviously June 3rd. Okay, I was already thinking we were at the end of May. I was like, well, that's next week, so that's not gonna work. No,
If
Rush
if
it.
they need somebody to open the building, I can do that.
Don't rush it, Josh.
yeah, well,
Slow
I
down.
really want to, because
Summer's coming for you,
June is a good time.
and then it's over so quickly.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Peter Pochop?
That's good, right?
That's the Todd.
Received an email from-
Yeah, Todd said he's coming in this week.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that needs to go to Todd.
Yep.
Todd did say that he was gonna be
Working on it this week.
He'll be in this
Do
week.
that.
Delta Dental, I think this is for our town employees. It is open enrollment. January, July 1st. So if anybody needs down to the shops, you want to pass that on to the other guys if they need to get on for dental. Yeah,
Doesn't surprise me. Nothing's gone down.
5.06,
Constantly increasing everything.
except for my pay. You could give that to Tammy too. Tammy, if any of the guys need that, if you can help them out with that portion. This is what we talked about there.
That's it
This
for now.
is the road stuff. Last thing I have is for the board. Mike Gahn, our attorney, retires on June 1st. We need a new lawyer and decide who and find out what you need to do to get an appointment with them. It was brought to my attention that he is going to become a paralegal for the company he's
Yeah.
working for. And it was a possibility that we might be able to just get one of the other partners in the firm to represent us. Tammy, if you could, Megan Manahan, I think was the name I heard also. If the board approves of that, we could have Tammy send out an email just requesting either a meeting or for that to be for her to take over our legal a meeting with her,
Is-
or
Is this a hard stop date or will he finish cases he's already on?
on June 1st, he will no longer be a
Okay,
licensed.
so it's a hard stop.
He will not be a licensed.
Yeah, we're gonna need Megan up well, probably I'd say we need to talk to, yeah.
Yeah, so if we could, if we could either meeting with her or if she's just willing to take over our stuff from Mike would be ideal. If
I
the
think
board
we'd
thinks
like to at least see her face and meet her.
I think we need something from her first saying that she's even willing, and then we can make a motion to.
Yeah, can you check with her or check with Michael and see
Well-
if she's willing to take us on and then we
I'm
can meet with
guessing,
her briefly.
yeah, I'm
He
I'm
did
hoping,
mention that previously that
Yeah.
was probably an option, so.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that that's the case, but
Well, you
Uh,
employ Mike through the firm anyway.
Right.
You don't employ him as his own,
right,
so
Yeah.
you're really not
Really,
switching.
it won't be a.
right, we
still with
wouldn't
the
be
firm.
switching anything, and technically, if he's her paralegal, then he would still handle everything. She would just be the face behind the work.
Brigham?
Brigham update.
Had a meeting last week, with a lot of people, actually. One of the people there, was Corey Parent, ex-state senator, who's now he calls himself a small businessman. He's a contractor. He spoke to me quite bluntly, and, you know, he said this project is too big for the small guys and not quite big enough to get the attention of
The big guys.
the big guys. And he said, you know, maybe in a year or two, he'd be willing to take it on, but right now it was beyond his scope. And that's what we've been facing. I've talked with some of the big guys. And, you know, it's marginal as to whether or not this project can make money because of some of the restrictions from the Preservation Trust, and once you involve them and it's on the historical list and the national parks gets involved, and they are very restrictive. And, you know, originally we got this planning grant, and they thought that, you know, minimum of 22 units, and this could make a go of it. Well, due to restrictions of the Historical Society, the Preservation Trust, and the national parks, we're looking at, you know, 17, 18 units.
That takes the profit.
There,
sure.
yeah, and it makes it harder for someone to come in and say, yeah, I can do this. Oh, but I can't make money at it. And it doesn't really make it appealing. So we're going to the Northwest Regional Planning Commission and Franklin County Industrial Development Corp. and Franklin County Housing. That's not quite right, but there's more to the title than that. But we're going to get together and advertise statewide and see if we can get any interested parties.
So. Did they give an idea as to like how much it would cost to not restore, to construct what they're thinking? Like, did they?
Jim Cameron's the only one that actually gave an amount to that. He said between 4.5 and 5 million.
Okay. And that was to make it into apartments.
That was to make it into apartments, and Jim Cameron's idea was quote unquote, I think he phrased it, working class apartments. Okay,
So it's affordable.
Yeah.
affordable, not really affordable housing.
No,
I
I
mean,
mean,
these were people that had to be vetted
mhm,
by whoever is running the association, which is whether it be an individual or the town or whoever,
mhm.
but it would not be advertised as quote unquote low-income housing.
Right.
This is, and the price range he was talking about is a considerable step up from affordable housing. But
Right.
that also restricts some state funding.
Right.
If you go in there and say, I'm gonna build affordable housing, the state will step right in and say, oh, right, fine, here you go, you can have this, and this.
As long as it meets.
As long as it's owned by an individual. If it's owned. Yeah,
Right, Corp.
So I think,
if you involve the Preservation Trust, it's too restrictive.
yep, I get that. So I think just listening to, you know, the past couple meetings we've had, when we've had people here, you know, when we asked to
Mhm.
sell it for $1 and voices. I think what we need to do as a board, and I know it's kind of falls on you a lot, Lance, but I think what we need is we need to give them the 3 options with the pricing. Option 1 being a unit owned by, or units owned by another entity.
Mhm.
Where we've sold the building for $1.
Yeah.
And we I mean, rough estimate, it's like $4.5, $5 million, but that's not our money.
Right.
I think we also need to get an estimate, whether that has an engineer come in to turn that building into a useful structure for the town. Maybe we put the library, the town offices, a meeting hall, smaller meeting rooms off to the side for, the entities that want to borrow a room. Get a bid on that, see what that would cost. And then, I hate to say
Taking
it,
it
but a bid to see what it's gonna cost to have the building
Torn down.
moved.
I think that
from-
has to be an option that you present because
And I think
there's
it-
interest in
It's an
doing it.
option that
And
we
I
have
think
to
we've-
start considering.
And I think
Yes.
we've got to bring all three of those and say, these are your three options. This is what it's gonna cost to make it a usable building for the town.
Mhm.
This is what's gonna happen, sell it for $1. And if those two aren't the option you want to go with, this is what it's gonna cost the town to make this a green space. Because, I mean, I've been on the board for 6 years now, 7 years.
Yeah.
And we've circled this wagon.
Yep.
I mean, your horse has got to be getting dizzy.
Well.
You've
I did
circled the-
14 years before that.
Right. Oh, 14. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm 41 and it went out of commission, I think, 2 years after I was born. It went out in 86, wasn't it? Or 87?
It was, this is before, it was like 84, wasn't it?
Okay, the year I was born, then 41 years ago, the building went vacant. And the only thing that's really happened to it is the new wing, which was like what locker rooms and bathrooms, was tore off. That's the only thing that's really happened to that building in 41 years.
Roof.
Roof was replaced, yeah.
Yep. So I mean,
And that's where the Preservation Trust's got their oxens.
yeah,
Why, for the roof?
that's
So we
that,
had a grant through them to do it.
that's that easement. Wherever it was here
Yep.
in that.
Wow.
So I think I think that's what the taxpayers want, is they want to see, these are the options, these are what they're gonna cost. We
Pick
make a
one.
decision and we go with it. I mean, you've got to be thinking it's about time. I feel like it's always been, here's an idea, and we chase that idea down the rabbit hole until it pops out
Doesn't
the other
work.
side and we've lost it.
Yep.
And then we go, okay, well, back to square one. Oh, here's an idea, and we chase that one for as long as we can. It's just, we've continued to chase it around and around and around. And the
With
building's
all the
not
good
getting,
intentions, I
yeah,
mean, it's not
absolutely,
been- yeah,
absolutely. I just think the building's not getting
Any younger.
any younger, and it's just gonna keep costing us more and more.
Neither am I, so.
No, I get that. I get that. But I mean, I think, when was the last time the town took out, like a loan to do anything? It would have been when they built the school.
No, it's when we put the new roof on the school.
The new roof and the air handlers, wasn't it?
So mid-90s, or was that?
Had to been 2000, around 2000.
That, yeah, 25 years ago, thereabouts.
Okay. You know what, and that's just
And the
what,
one before that was the school. Well, actually, no, the other time was, we've, purchased the ground.
I was gonna say the gravel pit, that just came to mind, but I mean, realistically, that's kind of what we're talking about
Mhm.
here, is an item like those types of purchases. Cause I mean, if you're talking $4.5 to $5 million to, turn that into apartments, my thought is it would be considerably cheaper to renovate into a usable space.
Well, it's not gonna be any cheaper because you're still gonna have all the same basic.
Well, no, because you're not,
The only thing you're putting in is there's partitions to make it.
well, partitions and water, and I mean,
Individual.
Right now,
And
it's heat, water,
Elevator.
power, yeah,
I mean, the
nothing's good, so.
the electrical
Right.
system, right, but what I'm saying is the electrical system alone to put in 18 units is gonna be, I mean, that's gonna be almost $1 million on its own in that old building. Whereas if you're just revamping the electrical system that's in place, cause you're not gonna change a lot of those rooms if you turn it
Change
into,
it, but you're still gonna need to have an elevator. You're still gonna have to have the same power source going in.
So
So it's
these are
still gonna
all
cost the
things-
same.
These are all things that.
That's-
that we'll
that's
get
what
to,
the-
right?
yeah,
But
that's what the-
exactly what we have to.
that's
do.
what that town building quote will have to include, is,
And, I'll have to admit that Jim Cameron's plan involved enough ground unit, ADA accessible units where he didn't have to put in an elevator,
Yep.
so,
Because they were all serviced off the first floor.
right.
I get you.
But I mean, I look at like what the Fairfield Community Center is doing down there. That's what that was. That was an old school that, you know, they use for different things. You could put in, it wouldn't be hard to have a daycare facility run out of one of those units or,
No.
you know, I mean, there's tons of options. Everybody's got these ideas of what it could be used for. If there's, what is there? How many classrooms in that building?
Over there?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The upstairs auditorium, the downstairs study hall. There's 2 other rooms that used to be the kitchen and,
7, ain't there?
yeah.
So I mean, there's plus the gym, which you could leave almost the way it is, you know, for a meeting hall.
Well, your gym would probably become your utility room. Because
So
it's
we're
already
starting to
built.
go down that
Right.
rabbit
Yeah,
hole
but I'm
where
just
we're-
saying-
And then
Pull us
there's-
back.
Then there's the other
Oh,
problem, the ground or the basement floor doesn't meet code for height.
So to Nikki's point,
Yep.
let's just carry on, and this is a time to be allotted at another meeting or another different meeting.
But I think we do need those 3 options.
Yep.
to
Okay.
present to the town.
That is it for the Brigham update.
That's it.
Okay. We appreciate your work on that.
Hmm.
No, really.
Glad somebody does.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, we do.
Jeff, I had a item
You have an item.
that wasn't on the list. Now I can wait
Okay.
for others, or if we're accomplishing everything before we go in, then I can do it
Yep.
now. So the Northwest Fiber Access, I guess, or Northwest Fiber Works I joined their first meeting, which is quarterly meetings. The best thing I could say coming out of it is that they are identifying low, or should I say high need sites for internet connectivity fiber wise. Bakersfield is not included in those plans at this time, primarily because our good friends Consolidated / Fidium have run fiber to all the poles almost now in town, not only to the places in the town, but in the outskirts in the 933 area code now, or 933 exchange now. So for instance, East Bakersfield Road has it.
Been running wires recently.
Yeah, it's not Northwest Fiber Works. They haven't run any wire yet,
Oh.
which surprised me when honestly, when I joined the meeting and I didn't want to, start rattling the cage the very first meeting I was there, but my impression was that they put fiber somewhere. They haven't put one strand up anywhere.
It's pretty much done from the town line on the East Bakersfield Road around by Terry Malone's. Back
Yeah.
up through Joyles, I believe.
Yeah, it's up at my house and I'm on Joyle.
Ovid Road and Hennessy Road got done about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Then the other end of 108 was being done about a week ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have, as far as I understand, they're blanketing the 933 exchange now. The underserved communities that they're still identifying, but they have a couple out there that they're talking about. Those communities will not see high speed at all for at least another few years. So they're talking about doing it. But like I said, I was quite surprised that, several years after the funding was made available, they haven't run one string of fiber anywhere. They're still in the planning stages. So it's probably why Fidium can roll up on them so quickly. Otherwise, that was it. I just wanted to
Okay.
give you a quick update on that.
There is one other, and this it was in the new mail and I forgot, I didn't forget, I turned it up over here and I didn't grab it, so. And that, I'm gonna let Nikki read that.
Okay, so this is a concurrent House Resolution HCR 81 passed by the State of Vermont House of Representatives. I'll just read it as it is. So offered by Representatives Krowinski of Burlington, Arsenault of Williston, Bevico of Winooski, Bishop of Colchester, Black of Essex, Blumel of Burlington, Barcelona of Westminster, Boyden of Cambridge, Burke of Brattleboro, Burrows of West Windsor, Campbell of St Johnsbury, Casey of Montpelier, Christie of Hertford. Do I actually need to read all of these people?
Probably not.
I'm not
I
gonna
think
read
it's,
them all.
it
There-
looks like
This
it
was,
looks like
this
all of
was supported by all of the.
Representatives?
Yeah.
Okay.
House concurrent resolution in memory of former Bakersfield Select Board member Brenda Churchill. Whereas to many, Brenda Churchill was best known as a leading advocate for transgender rights within the LGBTQIA plus community, but this was not her sole civic or political engagement. And whereas for over 2 decades, she was employed in the telecommunications industry and later brought this professional expertise to her service on the board of Northwest Fibre Works, the communications union district serving Franklin and Grand Isle counties. And whereas Brenda Churchill served as a key aide in Christine Holquist's 2018 gubernatorial campaign, and she completed the Emerge Vermont candidate training program and also served on the organization's board. And whereas as the legislative liaison for the LGBTQIA Alliance of Vermont, her efforts were critical in legislative enactments related to ethnic and social equity studies in public schools, the provision of gender-neutral bathrooms, adding a non-binary designation option for Vermont driver's licenses, and establishing a birth certificate authentication process. And whereas Brenda Churchill's interests also focused on municipal government in the town of Bakersfield, where she served as a zoning official and the local American Rescue Plan manager, and she won election as both Justice of the Peace and Select Board member. And whereas during the 2020 US Census, she served as one of the Vermonters performing the vital role of data collector for the decennial headcount. And whereas when not engaged in one of her many public or non-profit sector roles, Brenda Churchill loved riding her bright orange Jeep off trail on interesting journeys. And whereas Brenda Churchill's participation in local and state government culminated in being selected as a member of the Vermont Commission on Women. And whereas on January 13th, 2025, Brenda Churchill died at 67 years of age, and her survivors include her partner, Sarah Chapman, her children, and her grandchildren. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the General Assembly extends its sincere condolences to the family of Brenda Churchill, and be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be directed to send a copy of this resolution to the family, the Bakersfield Town Clerk, and the Vermont Commission on Women. And it's signed by the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, and the Clerk of the House,
That's very nice.
which is really nice. Yeah. So we need to keep this somewhere. So
Yep. Here, do you want to put this is the letter that
and that's
yep. That was the final thing that I had. So
Excellent. What? So,
Let's talk about the Memorial Day meeting before we ask for
yeah, we're Memorial Day meeting, we need to, I would suggest that we move said meeting to, if it's a 5 Monday month, to move it to the,
no,
I'm in the wrong month.
the 12th and the 26th, and then it's the 9th of June and the 23rd. So we'll need something before the 4th of July, I would assume.
Well, it's May, right? So we have the first meeting in June would be June 9th. June
Oh.
2nd is reserved for the planning commission. They have
What
the
about-
first Monday.
what about that Tuesday? I know Todd won't be able to make a Tuesday, but just the day after.
Try to make it. 27th.
Yeah, I might have committed to something I can't do anyway.
You can't do it.
No,
Well,
I've
well-
got 2 games that day.
We have to come in on Tuesday anyhow to sign checks, either way.
Yep.
It's not available.
Well, I'm just saying fly by to sign check sometime, at least 3 of us. Do we just forego the meeting completely?
We could, unless there's any pressing issues. Sign warrants. How about if we haven't, let's see here. The only other thing, I mean, I could do Wednesday.
Wednesday,
Yeah, I could do
28th.
Wednesday. I don't have a game on
We
Wednesday.
could make it a truncated meeting on the Wednesday, so just for board business and not for visitors, and maybe
Yep.
that would.
Yeah, let's do that. Wednesday, the 28th. Board business and signing of warrants.
on Wednesday, the 28th.
He can come on the 9th of June
Or the 12th of May.
Right,
or the 12th of May.
7 PM.
Unless you want to go earlier.
Since it's a Wednesday, I'll be in South Burlington.
No problem. Seven
So-
PM works fine then.
That we have,
Yeah, are we good to make the motion?
Believe so.
I'd like to make a motion. We enter executive session to discuss two items. One is of legal nature. With this one, I request that Brian Westcombe be allowed to attend since he has valuable information for said executive session. The second one is regarding, I'll call it employee items,
Yep.
employee items.
a second motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, let me
Guess
shut
you
her
work.
down.
Yep.
I make a motion that we exit executive session.
Second,
Turn on your mic.
I'll second.
Time is 8:59.
Oh. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
No, it's just-
Second.
Right, no decisions were made during executive session.
Right, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion. Motion's been made and seconded twice,
No, I'll second.
9 o'clock. Yep, he got emotional.
I'm emotional here.
It was seconded by both the other people. I'd call for a vote, but I mean, I had a motion and a second from half. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 9 o'clock on the money.
Let's try that again.